My wife introduced an open marriage plan after 10 years, claiming it would help us evolve as a couple. After 10 years together, you think you know someone. You build a life, a future, a whole world with them. But what if one day they casually suggest tearing it all down, opening your marriage, and then get furious when you actually find happiness elsewhere? That's my story, and trust me, it's a wild ride of betrayal, manipulation, and a shocking dose of comeuppance that still makes my blood boil. Before the chaos truly exploded, let me take you back to the beginning. I was 33, married for 8 years, together for 10. We were college sweethearts, the kind of couple who thought being each other's first and only meant something profound, something unbreakable. Turns out, only I believed that. My life was all about structure, about predictability. I optimized freight railway routes, moving hundreds of train cars across states, making sure everything runs smoothly and efficiently. Predictability pays, and I built my world around it. Vanessa, my wife, was a dental hygienist. When we met, she was quiet, observant. In a college full of people constantly performing, her stillness felt deliberate, thoughtful. I mistook it for contentment. We married at 23. Our families approved. No major red flags, just shared values, stable routines, matching trajectories. For years, it worked. Friday movies, Saturday chores, Sunday prep. I built a life of careful order, and she seemed to fit neatly into it. Intimacy was there, but it felt scheduled, almost a duty. She never initiated, never refused. I told myself participation was enough, but deep down, a tiny voice always whispered, participation isn't desire. I ignored it. Then, about 18 months before everything fell apart, she got a new job at a corporate wellness company. Better pay, real advancement. I pushed her to take it, thinking I was supporting her, helping her grow. What I was actually doing was clearing the runway for someone else to land. The first month, she struggled, complaining about not fitting in. I coached her. Persist, show your value, contribute.
She did.
And she made friends with 4 women there. At first, I was relieved. Then, everything shifted. She started coming home later, just enough minutes that I'd notice. She'd walk in, buzzing with an energy that dimmed the moment she saw me. Her phone became an extra limb, constant scrolling during dinner, movies, conversations. Just work chat, she'd say, but the secrecy grew obvious. Our bedroom intimacy? It fell apart. Declining frequency, declining interest, a gut-wrenching decline in connection. I brought it up gently. She brushed it off as work stress, promising things would settle. They didn't. Around month 5, she started talking about Troy, her new supervisor, a Seattle transfer. At first, it was harmless anecdotes. Then it escalated to comparisons. Troy handled this by doing X. Troy thinks Y. She was showing me alternative models of competence, like she was studying him. One night, she quoted his philosophy about authenticity with a tone you usually reserve for prophets. I felt a cold dread in my stomach. Do you have feelings for him? I asked. She recoiled, accusing me of insecurity, saying I didn't want her to grow. It shut me down, but settled nothing. A week later, mid-documentary, she paused the screen, looked at me. Do you ever regret not experiencing more before settling down? She asked, her voice too casual. I said no. She was enough. She looked disappointed, like she'd hoped for a different answer. 2 weeks after that, she dropped the bomb. We should open our marriage, she said. She framed it as revitalization, exploration, removing pressure so we could choose each other freely. I actually laughed. She didn't. Her expression told me she'd rehearsed this. My gut screamed, "Is this about Troy?" She denied it too quickly, too vehemently. Said she didn't want to hit 50 with regrets. Said I was her foundation, her safety, and that opening the marriage was the ethical alternative to divorce. My heart hammered. If you want to see other people, I told her, my voice low, we separate first. She backpedaled immediately, called it brainstorming, said I was overreacting. But the seed was planted. She'd revealed exactly how she saw us. Our bedroom died completely then. mechanical when it happened at all. She'd finish, shower, and vanish into her phone. For weeks later, she brought it up again. This time, she came with a whole speech about monogamy being limiting, about needing more from life, about how she loved me but wasn't fulfilled. The framing made me the obstacle to her happiness. My blood ran cold. "What about Troy?" I asked again. This time she admitted it. They discussed open relationships. He'd encouraged honest communication. I saw the architecture instantly, his ideology, her voice. "You want to sleep with your boss," I said, a bitter taste in my mouth. "You're trying to get my permission so it won't feel like cheating." She insisted it wasn't like that. I didn't argue. I just told her I needed time. I slept in the guest room that night.
She didn't follow.
The next morning, I called my brother. He's a family lawyer. He told me to document everything. Dates, messages, behavior shifts. Not because divorce was certain, but because clarity matters when things get slippery. I spent 3 days running numbers. Cost of leaving versus staying. Cost of 10 years versus cost of 10 more. I turned it into a model because numbers don't hurt. Models don't mourn wasted time. Part of me hoped she'd wake up from whatever this was. Part of me feared being alone. A huge part of me didn't want to admit I'd built a life with someone who didn't want it. Finally, I told her we could try it. But not a year. 3 months. With rules, calendar transparency, bi-weekly check-ins, protection mandatory, no overnights, no falling in love, and one hard line. If she brought anyone to our house, the trial ended immediately. That space was ours, non-negotiable. We wrote it down. She signed it, looked relieved, energized. She started dating within 3 days. That first night, she went out. I tried focusing on work, maps due for a new freight corridor. Instead, I just stared at the clock. 11 p.m. was the agreed-upon return time. Be home or communicate. Basic. 11 midnight. No text. No call. I moved to the guest room and started packing a go bag. Not everything, just enough to leave if I needed to. Clothes, documents, chargers. I didn't know if I'd use it, but having the option, it mattered. Her car finally pulled in around 1. She walked in glowing, hair messy, lipstick smeared. Didn't even bother to hide it. She saw me in the doorway with a half-packed bag. "What are you doing? Setting up in here?" she asked, a hint of annoyance. "I'm not sharing a bed with someone who can't follow basic agreements," I said, my voice flat. "I just lost track of time," she whined. "You broke the first rule on the first night. You're being dramatic." I closed my laptop. We had one agreement. Communication. You couldn't manage it for 3 hours. Her smile vanished. She apologized fast, promised alarms, reminders, structure. I didn't respond. I slept in the guest room. She didn't try to stop me. Lying there, hearing her shower, I realized my mistake. I'd told myself I was being progressive, mature. Instead, my wife had just come home from another man, and I was supposed to regulate my emotions like a machine because we wrote a contract. The next morning, she brought coffee, apologized again. I accepted it, but stayed in the guest room. 3 weeks in, she broke the overnight rule. I woke to an empty house. She came home at 8, hair wet. "I fell asleep," she said. Driving home tired would have been unsafe. I reminded her of the rule. She said I was being technical, that the spirit of the rule wasn't violated. I didn't end it. I should have. I didn't because ending it meant admitting the marriage was actually over, and I wasn't ready for that yet. So, I just moved further into the guest room emotionally and told myself I was being patient. The second time it happened, I packed a bag and left for my brother's place. Texted her. Taking space. "We'll talk Sunday." She called 19 times that day, left crying voicemails. Said I was abandoning her. Said she'd made a mistake. I didn't answer. Sunday, 2 p.m., at a coffee shop. She looked wrecked. "I need you to come home," she pleaded. My voice was steady. "I don't know if I can keep doing this. Please, if it happens again, any rule, not just overnights, I'm done completely." She agreed instantly. I returned to the guest room. The pattern didn't stop. She'd come home from dates, Walk past my office without a word, go straight to shower. I tried to initiate something days later, just to feel connected, and she'd push me away. Too tired, she'd say. But she wasn't too tired hours earlier. I started understanding what I actually was to her, the foundation she built her exploration on, the safety net, the backup plan. While she tried out the authentic life she claimed she'd been missing. Her friends visited constantly, especially Cheryl, with her grating laugh. "You're setting such a standard," she'd tell me. "Most men would never handle this." She said it like praise. But it felt like I was being studied, like they were using my marriage as proof their lifestyle worked. Month 2, Vanessa insisted I attend her company's summer event. I knew why. She wanted me to meet Troy. To normalize the situation, to show everyone she'd evolved beyond convention, and I was proof of her enlightenment. Hotel ballroom, open bar. She dragged me to her group. Cheryl, Monica, and 2 interchangeable friends. Cheryl grinned. "So, you're the progressive husband. Impressive." Vanessa explained our arrangement, with the confidence of someone delivering a keynote. Monica just watched me quietly, actually listening. 20 minutes later, Troy appeared. Tall, fit, expensive suit. He commanded space like he thought he owned it. "There's my team," he said, surveying them. Then to me, his handshake too firm, too intentional. "And you must be the understanding husband." He added, "Vanessa talks about you constantly. Says you're the most flexible partner she could ask for." Flexible, the implication echoed. Pliable, permissive, convenient.
"She's happy," I said.
"That's what matters." He smiled like he'd won something. Exactly. Life's too short for outdated constraints. Vanessa's finally operating at full capacity instead of being held back. My jaw tightened. He squeezed her shoulder casually, possessively. "Growth requires a supportive environment," he said, meaning me. Vanessa tried redirecting, but he stayed angled toward me. Then he put his hand on her lower back, mid-conversation. Just rested it there. Casual, proprietary. She didn't move. Leaned slightly toward him. He caught my eye and smirked. I set my drink down. I walked out. In my car, I sat there, replaying what I'd just watched. My wife, leaning into another man's touch, while I stood there like furniture. I drove to a bar across town, just to sit somewhere quiet. Stayed there 3 hours. Drove home eventually. Vanessa was waiting, anxious. "We need to talk about you leaving," she started. "No." I cut her off.
"We're talking boundaries."
"If he touches you like that again in front of me, this whole thing ends." "You're being jealous." That was her line. Back to the guest room. She cried in the living room for an hour. I didn't check. A week later, I came home early from work. Found his car in our driveway. Heard voices upstairs. I walked into our bedroom, my bedroom, and found them together. She scrambled up, eyes wide, started explaining, apologizing, saying it wasn't what it looked like, even though it was exactly what it looked like. Troy stood there, adjusting his shirt, assessing whether to placate me or escalate.
I didn't yell.
Didn't throw anything. I just looked at her. "You brought him here. Into our house. The one rule that actually mattered." "I know, but—" "Pack a bag," I said, my voice hoarse. "You have the weekend to figure out where you're staying. I want you out by Monday." "Please, we can. We're done. The trial's over." She started crying, reaching for me. I walked past her, went to the guest room, and locked the door.
Troy left.
She knocked on my door for 2 hours. I didn't answer. She spent the weekend at Cheryl's, texting constantly. Promises, apologies, explanations. I didn't read them. Monday, she came back, took her essentials, and left. Stayed at Cheryl's place for the next 2 weeks while I tried figuring out what came next. Meanwhile, I forced myself to try dating since she was living freely. Made a profile. Went on dates. But the moment things got physical, I'd shut down. Permission on paper didn't override instinct. Month 3, I met Jivan in a coffee shop. Korean, early 30s, industrial designer. I saw her smile politely when her order was wrong. Something about that small grace caught me. Next day, she was there again. Third day, we talked. Fourth day, I asked her to dinner. We went for Korean barbecue. She taught me how not to burn the meat. We talked about Busan, design, railway optimization, families, choices, escapes. Then we talked about my marriage. I told her I was married in an open arrangement I never wanted. That I'd agreed out of fear, not desire, that I probably shouldn't be dating at all. She didn't leave. She asked one question. Why did you agree? I didn't have an honest answer until she said it for me. So, you're doing this for her, not for you? Exactly. She didn't treat me like a malfunctioning system, the way I treated myself. She challenged me, called out my metaphors, pointed out where my logic hit emotion. Vanessa eventually noticed I was going out more. Are you seeing someone? She asked. Yes. She looked satisfied, then asked how serious. I kept it vague. She returned to her phone. Things with Jivan stayed casual for a while. Coffee twice a week, dinner occasionally, talking about everything except the obvious question of where this was going. She never pushed, never asked me to leave. Vanessa just existed as proof that connection could feel different than what I had. Month 5, things became physical. Happened naturally at her apartment after dinner. Afterwards, we talked until 3 a.m. She asked about my marriage. Not with jealousy, just curiosity. Asked what I'd hoped would happen when I agreed to open it. I told her the truth. I hadn't been happy for a long time. That I'd maintained routines because I didn't know what else to do. Because admitting it was dead felt like admitting I'd wasted 10 years on something that had never actually worked. She didn't tell me to leave Vanessa. Didn't push. Just said whatever decision I made should be based on what made me feel alive. Not safe. 2 weeks later, Vanessa was waiting when I got home from Jivan's on a Sunday evening. Nervous. Twisting her wedding ring. We need to talk. I sat down across from her and waited. I want to close the marriage, she said, her voice small. This was a mistake. I want to refocus on us. I stared at her. What changed? She gave the scripted answers. Reflection, missing our connection, realizing exploration wasn't worth it. So, I asked about Troy. She said they'd ended things. Mutual. Not sustainable long-term. When exactly? A couple weeks ago.
Why?
Because I realized what we have is more important. I stood, walked to the kitchen. She followed. You don't believe me? She asked. No. Why not? Because you're lying. Troy didn't end things mutually.
He dumped you.
Her face went white. She started crying. I'd only been guessing. Her reaction confirmed everything. She broke down and told me the whole story. 3 weeks earlier, Troy had begun distancing himself. Short replies, canceled plans, excuses about work. She'd scrambled to fix it, changed her schedule, bought new clothes, tried being more exciting, more available, more whatever she thought he wanted. None of it mattered. She'd cornered him after a meeting, demanding clarity. He'd been brutally honest. It had been fun, but he wasn't looking for anything serious. He dated multiple people casually. He'd never promised exclusivity, a future, or the fantasy she'd constructed. He told her maybe she should focus on her husband instead of chasing something that was never happening. She'd sat in her car for 2 hours afterward, realizing she'd blown up her marriage for a man who saw her as temporary entertainment. Through tears, she added something I didn't fully process at the time. She'd felt invisible for years. Said I talked more about railway efficiency than her feelings. Said Troy made her feel seen. I listened and felt, nothing exactly. Something uncomfortable. A flicker of recognition I didn't want to examine because part of what she said wasn't entirely wrong. I had treated our marriage like a system to optimize instead of a relationship to nurture. Intimacy on schedule, conversations about logistics, emotional connection as checkbox maintenance. But acknowledging that now felt like accepting blame for her choices. Like admitting I'd driven her to this. I hadn't. She could have talked to me. Could have asked for counseling. Could have ended things honestly instead of rigging up this elaborate permission structure to avoid calling it what it was. Still, the discomfort sat there. What did your friend say? I asked, moving past it. She hesitated. You told them, right, about him dumping you? I tried. They said I was overreacting, that this happens, that I should just find someone else. Her support system wasn't support, just an echo chamber keeping her committed to bad choices. So, you cut them off? Not yet. Why not? No answer. You want to close the marriage because your affair partner dumped you, I said, the bitterness finally breaking through. Not because you want us. Not because you love me. Because your preferred option disappeared. That's not fair, she cried. I'm still seeing Jivan. Her tears evaporated. Anger took their place. You need to end that. If we're fixing this, we're not fixing anything. I cut her off. You opened the marriage to be with Troy. Now you want to close it because it blew up. That's not how this works. She started hyperventilating, curling inward, using her breakdown like leverage. I need time, I said. You had 5 months to figure yourself out. I'm not making decisions while you're in crisis mode. Please don't leave, she begged. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll talk then. I left. Went to Jivan's. She opened the door and pulled me inside without a word. We sat quietly until I could speak. I told her everything. Vanessa wanting to close the marriage. Troy dumping her. The implosion of it all. She listened, then asked, "What do you want?" I don't know. She let that sit a moment. Then, are you staying because you love her, or because you don't want to admit you built 10 years on the wrong foundation? Those are different. I thought about it. Really thought. Not in logistics. In truth. I didn't love Vanessa. Maybe I never had. Maybe I'd stayed out of habit, fear, inertia, anything except genuine connection. I don't love her anymore, I said. Saying it out loud settled something deep inside me. Then handle it properly, Jivan told me. Don't drag it out. Don't keep her waiting for a decision you've already made.
Fair.
Next morning, I called my brother. Told him to file. You sure? He asked.
Yeah.
I'm done. I brought him everything I documented. Texts a mutual friend had forwarded months earlier, proving the emotional affair started before the open marriage conversation. Messages showing she and Troy had planned how she'd approach me. My brother nodded. This shows deception. Courts consider conduct. This helps. File it. Vanessa called 19 times that day. Left voicemails sobbing about counseling, working through things, fixing what we had. I didn't pick up. 4 days later, she was served at work. She called instantly hysterical. How could you do this to me after you spent 5 months with someone else? After planning it with him, before even talking to me? I made mistakes. You made choices. Deliberate ones. You're with Jivan. I met her after you'd already destroyed us. Don't pretend it's the same. Silence. Do you love her? She asked. What do you think stopped mattering when you fell in love with Troy? I hung up. Blocked her number. Divorce took 5 months. Vanessa contested everything. Claimed I'd abandoned her emotionally, that I'd used the open marriage as an excuse to check out, that I'd started seeing Jivan while we were working on things. My brother built a precise timeline, showed she'd proposed the open marriage specifically to pursue Troy. Showed the emotional affair that existed before any agreement. Showed I followed the rules while she violated them repeatedly. Showed the texts where she and Troy strategized how she should present it to me. The judge skimmed everything, asked a few timeline questions, and looked thoroughly unsurprised. She'd clearly seen this exact pattern 100 times. Someone blows up a marriage for an affair. The affair fizzles, and suddenly the spouse becomes the villain of the story. Divorce granted. Clean 50-50 split. No support. No kids. Just 10 wasted years officially ending. The paperwork finalized in late spring. We sold the house over the next 2 months. Split the proceeds. Divided the furniture neither of us wanted. Donated most of it. It was easier to start from zero than keep reminders. During those months, I spent most evenings with Jivan. Not rushing, just existing. Cooking dinner together, her teaching me Korean dishes I'd inevitably mess up despite her patient instruction. Watching movies, talking about design and logistics, her family in Busan, my stubborn inability to talk about emotions without turning them into systems diagrams. But she noticed everything, especially when I wasn't fully present. One night, I'd been distant. Vanessa had sent another text begging for counseling. Finally, Jivun set her chopsticks down. "I need to know if you're actually here," she said, her voice quiet but firm. "Or, if I'm just convenient. I won't do the placeholder thing again." "You're not," I insisted. "Then what am I?" "You're still reacting to your wife emotionally, even if you don't respond to her. You say you want this, but you haven't actually chosen it." She was right. I'd been in limbo, half tied to a marriage I no longer wanted, half leaning into something new without fully committing. "I'm choosing you," I said. She heard the hesitation, anyway. "When you really know," she said softly, "tell me. Until then, I need space." We took a 2-week break. It was brutal. I kept going to the coffee shop where we met and finding her table empty. I'd cooked dinner and realized I'd started seasoning things the way she taught me. I'd reach for my phone to text her something funny and stop myself. I realized how much better life felt with her in it, and how unfair I'd been by expecting her to sit quietly while I worked through emotional debris I hadn't created. When the divorce finalized, paper stamped, judge's signature making it permanent, I called her. "It's done. Official." "Are you sure?" she asked. "Because I need you to be sure." "I'm sure," I said. "I want this. I want you. Not as an escape, as a choice." We started fresh, slower, with intention. 3 weeks later, while organizing documents, I found a credit card statement addressed to both me and Vanessa. Balance $41,000. I'd never seen the card before. I called the company, learned she'd added me as an authorized user 2 years earlier, without my knowledge. Most charges were from the past year: hotels, restaurants, flights to places she claimed were work conferences. And then it clicked. Months earlier, she'd insisted we go paperless to reduce clutter. I'd thanked her for being organized. She'd used that to hide everything. I called my brother. Because I wasn't a joint account holder, the legal angle was different, but unauthorized addition combined with affair spending was still actionable. He filed a motion to reopen the asset division. Her attorney claimed business expenses. My brother demanded receipts. She had none. Couldn't justify a single charge. It took 4 months of hearings, continuances, depositions, and legal back and forth. Her attorney kept stalling, requesting extensions, filing motions to dismiss. My brother kept pushing. Then we hit a problem. The judge ruled that because I was listed as an authorized user, even without my knowledge, I had theoretical access to the card statements. Her attorney argued I should have discovered the charges earlier. My failure to review statements regularly meant I'd implicitly accepted the spending. My brother fought it, argued the paperless setup was deliberate concealment, but the judge wasn't convinced. Dismissed half the claim. We appealed the dismissal, submitted more evidence showing her systematic pattern of hiding financial information. 3 more months of waiting, briefing, arguing. Eventually, the judge reconsidered, ruled she owed me $17,000 instead of the original $34,000, payable monthly over 3 years. She left a screaming voicemail about how I was bankrupting her, ruining her life, punishing her. I deleted it. Finding that card made me wonder what else I'd missed. I spent a weekend reviewing old statements I'd saved before everything went paperless. Found regular transfers to Cheryl's account. $200 here, $300 there. Starting early in the open marriage. Over 18 months, $23,000. My brother filed another motion. Cheryl claimed these were loan repayments for close and date expenses, no contracts, no messages, no proof, just vague stories. 5 months of legal wrestling followed. Cheryl reversed details constantly in deposition. Her attorney stalled endlessly, filed motions, requested continuances, tried every delay tactic available. The judge eventually lost patience and ordered Vanessa to reimburse $11,000, my half. More monthly payments, more obligations. Her life collapsed accordingly. She moved to a smaller apartment, downgraded her car, took weekend retail shifts to cover the payments. Meanwhile, I got promoted. Senior analyst, better pay, more responsibility, and Jivan and I moved in together. We found a place that belonged to neither of us before. Somewhere we could actually build something new instead of cleaning up old ghosts. For once, life felt stable, predictable in the right ways, surprising in the good ones. Vanessa's chaos kept shrinking behind me. Month by month, like a distant fire finally burning itself out. Early fall, 7 months after the divorce finalized, Monica called. Vanessa's former coworker from the wellness company said she had information I needed to see. We met at a lunch spot downtown. She arrived wearing sunglasses even though we were indoors, glancing around like she expected someone to follow her. "Vanessa's lying about everything," she said immediately. "Telling people you were controlling, that you isolated her, that you cheated first. I can't keep watching it. Someone needs to know the truth." She handed me a folder. Screenshots, message logs, photos of archived conversations. Vanessa and her friends strategizing affairs, coordinating cover-ups, discussing how to keep me unaware. Monica explained she maintained the department's communication archives, compliance, onboarding, continuity. When Vanessa used the company system to plan her personal life, everything auto-saved into folders Monica had to manage. "I didn't go digging," she said. "It was just there." I asked why HR hadn't acted. Monica sighed. "The company only intervenes when something directly affects performance." Troy brought in huge revenue. People had complained before. Women saying they felt uncomfortable, that he flirted inappropriately, but it was always vague. No one wanted to make it formal because everyone knew he'd fight back legally. So, the company's solution was to transfer him every couple of years. Portland, Seattle, Phoenix, same pattern. Then, she told me Troy wasn't Vanessa's only affair. There were at least 3 men before we ever agreed to open anything. One was married. His wife found out and threatened to tell me. Vanessa paid her $8,000 from our joint account to keep quiet. "Why tell me now?" I asked. "Because she cut me off," Monica said. "I told her maybe she should fix her marriage instead of destroying it. She hasn't spoken to me since. And now she's telling people I tried to sabotage her. I'm done being quiet." I thanked her, took the folder straight to my brother, and he filed a motion to reopen the asset division again. It took 3 months of legal battles. Vanessa's attorney argued the divorce was final. My brother argued fraud during marriage changes the terms. Judge reviewed everything and allowed it. Another hearing scheduled 6 weeks out. More evidence submitted, more depositions, more lies dismantled one by one. The judge looked exhausted by the entire mess and finally ordered Vanessa to reimburse an additional $19,000 for affair-related expenses she'd funded with marital money. Her payments multiplied. She was drowning financially. I felt nothing except relief. I'd escaped. Around that time, strange things began happening. Jivan mentioned getting friend requests from blank accounts. Generic names, no photos, no followers. More came each day. Then messages. Long, anonymous warnings claiming I'd abandoned Vanessa, that I had commitment issues, that I'd end up doing the same to Jivan. They referenced details only Vanessa would know. The writing style was unmistakable. Then it escalated. Jivan started seeing Vanessa in physical spaces. Her coffee shop, grocery store, bookstore. Always at a distance, always watching, never speaking, just existing nearby in a way that made everything feel wrong. Jivan changed her routines. New coffee shop, new grocery store, varied schedules, unpredictable routes home. It was exhausting watching her rearrange her life because my ex-wife refused to accept reality. One evening, she sat me down. "I'm questioning if this relationship is sustainable," she said quietly. "Your ex is everywhere. I didn't move across the world to be harassed by someone I've never wronged." She was right. I'd hoped Vanessa would simply burn out. She hadn't. "1 week," I said. "If it's not resolved by then, I'll understand if you walk." "Okay," she said. 1 week. Next morning, I went to Vanessa's apartment. She answered in sweatpants, hair unwashed. Stop contacting Jivan, I said. The fake accounts, the stalking. It ends now. I don't know what you're. Don't insult both of us. It ends today. Her face twisted. You moved on like I never mattered. Like 10 years meant nothing. Stay away from us. She stared, then nodded. But it didn't stop. More accounts, more sightings. Jivan saw her outside her workplace 3 days later, just standing across the street. My brother filed for a restraining order. He compiled everything, screenshots, witness statements, logs of every appearance. Filing took 2 weeks. Hearing scheduled another 3 weeks out. Vanessa was served notice. She violated before the hearing even happened by showing up at Jivan's workplace. This time claiming she was just delivering a letter. Security called police. She was arrested in the lobby. At the hearing 2 days later, the judge reviewed the arrest report, the evidence my brother had compiled, and the pattern of escalating behavior. Granted a 3-year restraining order. Mandatory distance, no direct or indirect contact. My brother filed a defamation suit next. The anonymous messages claiming I'd isolated her, controlled finances, cheated first, all provably false. Her attorney tried negotiating a settlement. We refused. Went to trial instead. Trial lasted 3 days, spread over 2 weeks. The judge reviewed the evidence methodically. Screenshots, message logs, witness testimony. Ruled in our favor. $32,000 in damages. Payable over 4 years. Harassment stopped after her arrest. The restraining order had finally conveyed what nothing else had. She no longer had access to my life. Jivan relaxed. Returned to her favorite coffee shop, stopped checking behind her constantly. Her shoulders dropped, her voice lightened. It was the first time in months she seemed unburdened. One evening at home, she looked at me over dinner and said, "I'm glad she can't reach us anymore." I didn't realize how much space she was taking up until she wasn't. I knew exactly what she meant. Winter came, a 1.5 years since filing for divorce. Things were stable, better than stable. Jivan and I had found a rhythm. Work was good. Life was good. Then she got offered a position in Seattle. Better opportunity, more creative freedom, higher salary. Working with a design collective she'd admired for years. Everything she'd been working toward. She wanted me to come with her. "I need to know if you're in this or coasting," she said one evening over dinner. "Because this is a real decision. It's uprooting everything. Moving across the country, starting completely over. I need to know if you're actually committed to building a life with me, or if you're just comfortable with how things are right now." First real conflict we'd had in months. And I realized she was right to question it. I'd been comfortable, been coasting, letting things happen instead of actively choosing them. Instead of giving her a speech about commitment or asking for time to think about it, I spent the next 3 days actually doing something about it. Called my boss first, explained the situation, asked if I could work remotely from Seattle. He took a day to think about it, called me back, and said yes. The position was mostly analysis and optimization, anyway. Didn't require me to be physically present as long as I could make quarterly trips back for planning meetings. He was fine with it. Then I started actually researching what moving would mean. Called a realtor Jivan had mentioned. Started looking at neighborhoods and what our budget could get us. Checked cost of living differences, job market stability in case remote work didn't pan out long term. 3 days after she'd asked, I came back with specifics. Remote work approval, realtor contact, neighborhoods I'd researched, budget breakdown, timeline for when we could realistically move. "You're sure?" she asked, looking at everything I'd put together. "I'm choosing you," I said, looking her in the eyes. "Not because you're convenient. Not because I'm afraid of being alone. Because being with you requires me to actually show up and be present instead of just coasting through life. Because you make me want to be better than I was." She searched my face for hesitation. Didn't find any this time. "Okay then," she smiled. "Let's do it." I gave notice at work 3 weeks later. They were disappointed, but understood. Offered to keep me on remotely, which made the transition easier financially. Threw me a small going-away lunch that was awkward but nice. Jivan gave notice at hers. They threw her a proper going-away party. I met more of her colleagues, started understanding her professional life in a way I'd never understood Vanessa's, because I actually asked questions, actually listened to the answers instead of just waiting for my turn to talk about railway logistics. 6 weeks before the move, I was at my gym on a Saturday morning doing my usual routine. Saw her in the mirror while I was on the rowing machine. Vanessa, standing at the entrance, watching me. I got off the machine and walked straight toward her. She froze when she realized I'd seen her. "You need to leave now," I said. "You're violating the restraining order." "I'm just trying to work out. This is a public place. The order says you stay 300 feet away from me. You came here knowing I'd be here. That's a violation." People nearby stopped their workouts to watch. I wanted to apologize. Face to face. Letters don't feel real. Up close, she looked different. Exhausted. Eyes shadowed. Clothes hanging off her like they no longer fit. Weight lost in the way that means stress, not effort. "I know I destroyed everything," she said quietly. "I know there's no fixing it. I just wanted to apologize properly. Not in something you delete without reading." Her voice wasn't manipulative or dramatic, just worn down. But it didn't matter. "You can't fix this. Leave." "I know." Her voice cracked. "I'm scared. I'm alone. I'm broke. I'm 32 and starting over with nothing because I threw away the one person who cared about me for someone who never wanted me. How pathetic is that?" 2 gym staff approached. I told them she had a restraining order against her. They escorted her out while she cried. She didn't fight, just went. That was the last time I saw her. 6 weeks later, Jivan and I moved to Seattle. Bought a small house near Green Lake. 2 bedrooms, small yard. We painted rooms together on weekends, argued about colors and furniture placement, and whether we needed a dining table. Normal couple arguments, shared decisions instead of silent resentments. A year and a half post-divorce, we went to a wedding. College friends, people who'd known both me and Vanessa. Some asked polite questions how the divorce happened, whether we were both doing okay. I kept it short, said we wanted different things and went separate ways. No details. One person asked if I was happy now. I said yes. They said I looked lighter than I had in years. Said they'd noticed I'd seemed stressed near the end of my marriage, but hadn't wanted to say anything. Driving home, Jivan asked if I ever regretted any of it. If I wondered what would have happened had I tried harder with Vanessa or given her another chance. "No," I said, taking her hand. "Not even a little."
"Good," she said.
"Because I don't regret anything either. We have normal friction now. Where to put furniture. Whose family to visit. Who forgot trash day. But we deal with it.
We talk.
We argue and resolve. No cold silences. No disappearing acts. No games. We chose a house together, built routines together, built a life that didn't exist before both of us put effort into it. I found something real with Jivan. Not convenience, not habit, not fear of being alone. Something built deliberately, with intention on both sides, something solid, something earned. And it feels incredible. Have you ever had someone try to completely rewrite your story for their own gain? What would you have done in my shoes when faced with such a blatant betrayal? Let me know in the comments below. I truly want to hear your thoughts.